Dave Ramsey is a financial megastar in the US. His daily radio show is syndicated all around the country and all around the world in podcast format. He has helped countless people achieve what he calls financial peace. Yep, I'm a big fan, but some of the stuff he says needs anglicizing a little bit. So I talked a little bit about Dave Ramsey's baby steps last week. I love his framework for building on different skills and things you need to do to build wealth over time. Some elements of them, though, tend to raise questions about how to apply them here in the UK. So I thought that what I would do is try and address that in 5 minutes. Fair to say I'd put good odds on me getting nowhere near the 5-minute deadline here today. But let's have a go anyway, and I'm going to stick 5 minutes on the clock down here. Say a quick thank you to my friends at 7 Investment Management down here for continuing to sponsor the show, and we're going to crack on. Okay, so Dave Ramsey's baby step number 1 is to save a starter emergency fund of $1,000. Nothing much to anglicize here, except maybe making it £1,000, not dollars, because, what use are they over here? The idea of having a small emergency fund behind you, smallish anyway, is to keep Murphy at bay. Save what? Murphy? Well, Dave Ramsey refers to Murphy's Law, which we here in the UK would call Sod's Law. That doesn't sound quite so good, does it? We're here to keep Sod at bay. Sod's Law, Murphy's Law basically say that what can go wrong will go wrong. A cash buffer allows that while you are working on the next baby step, which is paying down debt, if something happens which is going to cause a dent in your monthly budget, you don't have to get deeper into debt to sort that out. So we're talking things like unexpected car repairs or having to change the cooker or something like that. These are not catastrophic issues, but they will certainly make a big dent in your monthly budget. And the last thing you want is, while you're trying to pay off debt, is to get further into debt because of these unexpected things. And it's funny, Dave Ramsey says that if you have a starter emergency fund in place, Murphy is less likely to show up in any case. So that's baby step 1, save a starter emergency fund of £1,000. Baby step 2 is to pay off all your debt, excluding your house, using what he calls the debt snowball. I absolutely love this method for paying down debt. I've done other stuff on this, so I'm not going to repeat it here. It's detailed in the book as well, with Dave Ramsey's permission. Thank you, Dave. What book, I hear you ask? My book, petesbook.com for all the details. Dave Ramsey excludes mortgages from the debt snowball. That comes later. But I would also, from a UK perspective, add that you wouldn't add student loans to the debt snowball either. Student loans are entirely different here in the UK from the US. They are much less burdensome, and essentially they're not loans at all. They're a form of graduate tax. Listen back to season 13, episode 6 of the podcast for lots more on my particular views on the UK student finance system. Moving on to baby step 3. Now you have to fully fund your emergency fund with between 3 and 6 months of monthly expenses. Nothing really to clarify here. If you're in a secure job, maybe you're in the public sector and it's unlikely that you're going to be made redundant anytime soon, as much as any of us can know that, then probably you can err towards maybe 3 months worth of emergency fund expenses. If you work for yourself or in the private sector, maybe with worse sick benefits, then you should err towards the 6 months level. This is the point in the baby steps that I would add a sort of sub-step or an extra one or something, and talk about making sure you have adequate life protection and income protection in place. Emergency fund is one thing, but if you are on long-term sick, unable to work for whatever reason for a period of months or even years, then your emergency fund is only going to get you so far. So you should definitely look at having an income protection plan in place to pick up where your emergency fund leaves off. Baby step number 4, and this is a biggie, invest 15% of your household income into retirement savings. Need to be clear that 15% is an entirely arbitrary number. I would deem that as a goal, definitely something to work towards. If you can save 15% straight off the bat, then fantastic. Try and push it even further. But for many of us, that will be a goal that we need to work towards. But if you're on baby step number 4, you've already paid down all your debt. You've already built up an emergency fund. So you need to bring to bear all the budgeting chops and skills that you've learned up to now and really find as much money as you can in your budget to pay towards your future savings. 15% is a great target. It is arbitrary. Some members of the financial independence or the FIRE community would laugh at a 15% savings rate because they tend to push for even higher, 50, 60, 70% savings rate. But for many of us, 15% is a great goal to work towards. In this baby step, Dave Ramsey talks about 401ks and Roth IRAs. We don't have those here in the UK. They are US constructs. Here in the UK, we have pensions, which are way more nuanced and complex than the American versions, and we have the ISA, and that includes the lifetime ISA. My view on the mix between pensions and ISAs is pretty simple. Firstly, you should join your workplace pension and contribute as much as you need to attract your employer's match. That's free money, so do whatever you need to do to get that free money from your boss. Now, if you don't have an employer, you work for yourself, or you maybe don't qualify for the workplace pension for whatever reason, then open one yourself, start paying at least 5% of your take-home pay into it, ideally 10%. After that, if you're just starting out, pile as much into ISAs, including the lifetime ISA, as you can. Lifetime ISA, you get the extra bonus and stuff, super useful little account. The great thing about ISAs generally is that they're more accessible than pensions. Lifetime ISA is a little bit of an exception there. So pile as much into ISAs, and then thirdly, once you have a decent sum in there, there's no figure for that, just a sum that you're comfortable with that is likely to cover any shorter term needs that you're likely to think of, then you start maxing out your pensions and paying as much as you can into that. Baby step 5, save for your children's college fund. We have a really good student finance system here in the UK. Yes, I wish it was free like it was for me, but it isn't. But it's way better than the system enjoyed, in inverted commas, by American cousins. It definitely makes sense to build up a sum of money to help your kids through university, but not necessarily to avoid them taking out the student loans. You can do that if you want, if you build up a big enough sum of money, but that might be 50 grand. That's in today's prices, likely to be a lot more in the future. So it's not about avoiding the tuition fees or the maintenance loans or whatever. It's more about providing a sum of money that maybe you can help them a little bit later in life, once they've got through the whole student experience. Or maybe you can help them upgrade their accommodation while they're at university or something like that. But I would say that your savings need to come first. So if you haven't bought a house yet and you want to do so, don't put that off to put your kids through university. That's madness. To that point, I think the baby steps 4 and 5 can coexist. So you can save both for retirement and your more shorter term goals at the same time. If you want to save for a house, I would definitely skew the balance of your savings towards that, in favor of that, and away from retirement savings without giving up on your retirement savings altogether. Just tilt the balance towards the shorter term needs. And then once that is addressed, shift the balance back and pile everything you can towards pensions. So it's really about balance, shorter term versus longer term, because the whole saving to put your kids through college thing is less relevant here. 2 more to go. Baby step 6, pay off your home early. Dave Ramsey talks about overpaying your mortgage. That's a great idea. There's a superb calculator over at the Money Savings Expert site, so I'll link to that below. I use that often, actually, to make sure that I'm on track to overpay my mortgage by the time that I want to do it. My personal view is that it makes sense, if you can, to both overpay the mortgage and save for the future. I really don't think that building wealth needs to be completely siloed. You do this one thing and then you move on to the next one thing. You can do it all together. Usually it's just a question of weights. After all, if you're on a repayment mortgage, the mortgage will sort itself out eventually. Sure, if you can overpay, you'll save yourself both time and interest, which is all for the better, but it will be paid off one day. If you're on an interest-only mortgage, you've maybe got bigger issues. And then finally, baby step 7, build wealth and give. Once you owe nobody anything, then you really are off to the races. You can pile as much money as you want to against building wealth for the future. You can also start to maybe think about enjoying the fruits of all your hard work. I love Dave's emphasis on giving too. My view is that there are only 3 legitimate uses of money. One is for spending and enjoying stuff, one is for building wealth for the future, and then finally for giving away, blessing other people and maybe causes that you support. But by the time you get to this baby step, you will be well versed in all the techniques you need, not only to aggressively save for the future, but to maybe put in your budget an element that you can give away, but you'll also be able to understand the numbers behind whether or not you have enough, and you can really start to kick back and enjoy the benefits. Needless to say, none of this happens overnight. It'll take longer for some of us than for others, but you know what? These things are timeless, and I highly recommend them. Any questions, any further details on the anglicization of it, just leave them under the video here. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you in next week's 5 Minute Friday.